Joining us now is Keisha Lance Bottoms, the former mayor of Atlanta and senior advisor to the Harris-Walz campaign. Thank you for being with us, Keisha. Let's talk about this moment for a moment. This moment for women of color and for women of color in politics. What are you feeling ahead of tonight's history-making outcome?
To say that this is exciting would be an understatement. And for as excited as I am to be in this arena tonight, I just wish that I was at home to share it with my 13-year-old daughter. I was thinking earlier today just about the possibilities that this opens up for her. You know, she's 13, so if you even think about Hillary Clinton's run several years ago, I don't know that she was able to really process that. But for a whole new generation of girls, they are able to see that these glass ceilings are continuing to be broken, from Kentucky Brown Jackson appointed to the Supreme Court to now Kamala Harris serving as our VP and our soon-to-be president. It's just a great night for women and girls across America.
I know bandwidth is bad there, but are you able to FaceTime her?
I will FaceTime her. I FaceTimed her actually not too long ago, so I'm going to try again, but that's a great idea. Thank you. I'll try and do that while the vice president's speaking.
I have a kiddo at home. We do that a lot when there's something big going on. Hey, Georgia, where you're from, is a battleground state now. Trump has alienated a lot of Republicans in that state, especially after he pushed false claims of fraud in Georgia and went after the Republican governor, Secretary of State, and more. How is that going to play into how your state turns out in November?
You know, I think it, again, will be another motivating factor. We know that reproductive freedom has fared very well when it's been on the ballot. It was a motivating factor in the midterm elections. And then on top of that, we have a very popular Republican governor with an even more popular first lady. So, you know, I'm not consulting with Donald Trump or his campaign, but it does seem like a suicide mission to me. But I want him to keep going on that path. People in Georgia are paying attention. We now have this election board that's attempting to look at the 2020 election again. And even Republican leaders in the state have said that we need to move forward. So voters are paying attention. And as we come out of this convention with the momentum that we have, it's a great time for people to pay attention to the things impacting their daily lives. And at the top of that list, of course, will be their right to access free and fair elections.
I have heard from some folks down here when I come to Atlanta that they're unhappy with how the Georgia election interference case was going, and they thought it was unfair toward the former president. Do you think that will play in this at all against Kamala Harris?
You know, I think people who likely think that that election will be or has been unfair, those proceedings have been unfair, the court case, I mean, you know, I mean, there are people on both sides of the aisle, and we obviously had very thin margins going into the 2020 election, less than 12,000 votes. So I think where people stand on that or where they stand, but it's going to be important for us to continue to have the conversation and push our messaging, not just to our base, but those independent and swing voters who are still open-minded, not just about the election interference case against Donald Trump, but any number of issues. We heard Oprah Winfrey make that case last night. Even my 22-year-old son said to me that President Obama sounded like an independent, and we need to hear more of that talk. So we aren't taking anybody for granted. We aren't taking our base for granted, or anyone else for that matter, because when you have an election decided by less than 12,000 votes, you know that you have a lot of work to do.
And I want to play on the same thread here. I want to play for our audience something the former lieutenant governor, a Republican, Jeff Duncan, said this week.
Let me be clear to my Republican friends at home watching. If you vote for Kamala Harris in 2024, you're not a Democrat, you're a patriot.
He also said his party acts more like a cult-worshiping, felonious thug. Are you surprised by how many Republicans, like your former lieutenant governor, have spoken at your convention this year?
You know, obviously it's a surprise to see Republicans speaking, but I'll just say this about Lieutenant Governor Duncan. I went into his office in the state capitol when he was the lieutenant governor. This is a man who supported Donald Trump, who had jumbo-sized pictures with Donald Trump in his office. And for him, a person who calls a very conservative area, the metro Atlanta area, home, this is very courageous and a really big deal for him to step out to do this, because he's having to face his neighbors each day. He clearly has had a change of heart as it relates to Donald Trump and his politics. And it's really my hope that more Republicans and more independents, that they listen to the message that he gave last night, that this is our country and our democracy and our freedom is bigger than one man. This really is about the foundation of our country and who we claim to be and who we hope to be. So I'm glad to see Republicans here. As I was leaving the floor, I saw Congressman Adam Kinzinger downstairs. I know that they are here amongst us, and we have a very big tent and welcome everyone in.
Okay, lastly, one of the big surprises this week, Lil Jon concert during that Georgia roll call. Did you know that was going to happen?
I knew that Little John was doing something. I just didn't know what it was. So I was as surprised and as happy to see him as anyone. There was a post on social media and someone said Atlanta is going to always Atlanta, and I'll say that Georgia is going to always Georgia. So he represents so much of who we are. And again, I think it really speaks to who we are as a party, that we can have a party with a purpose and still get the work and the business of the people done.
Yeah, Atlanta's gonna Atlanta. I like that. Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta. Thank you so much.